Welcome back to Pole Barn Garage. We have returned with the 1967 Pontiac powered Buick Skylark in preparation for duct tape drags in Tucson, Arizona. We have to drive this car over 1,500 miles, taking the scenic route, to get there. It's not going to do it like this. I have acquired a complete Butler Performance top end kit for this Pontiac 350. That's a roller cam, aluminum heads, intake, everything to slap on there. I have also acquired a quick performance 9-inch rear end for this, loaded with 355 gears and a locker. We're going to make this thing fun to drive, hopefully respectable on the drag strip, but before we even get to any of that, we have to pull the old 10 bolt out of this thing, get the 9-inch in it, and then I can measure for a drive shaft, because we're going to need that. I only have about a month to do it. We get this baby as high up in the air as we can. We want to support it under the frame. That way we can let the rear end drop. Just like that. We'll probably start by disconnecting the shocks, upper control arms and lower control arms. I have a bunch of leftover goodies out of that gold car over there when I put the UMI suspension under it. I kept my factory box lower control arms and stuff. I figured I'd use it someday. It'll go right in this car for free. What am I doing? Why don't I take the wheels off first? Without the wheels in the way and a jack supporting the rear end, I can remove this without dying. Technology is an amazing thing. Incredible. Let me get the drive shaft out of here, and then we'll take the control arms off and just yeet this thing right out. Alright, I actually got one control arm bolt out. How do I do this without losing my arm? These are the questions I find myself pondering most of the time. How am I going to do this without losing my head, a finger, an ear? You know, just the way it goes when you work on cars.
Got an extra arm.
Exactly.
Okay.
God gave it two of them. I present to you Punch. I will not be replacing the upper control arms. That is because 64 to 7 uses a different upper control arm than 68 to 72, which is all I have around here. So I'm going to look at them, and yeah, they're totally fine. So we haven't had rear brakes on this car at any time. I'm just going to cut this hose. It's an old hose anyway. This car will theoretically be quick enough that I'm probably going to want all 4 brakes. Normally around here the stuff is slow enough, like, yeah, I mean, whatever, it'll be fine, but this one might be kind of fun. Now, these bolts go through the frame. But then, a fearsome lioness entered the shop, keen to consume the sky goat, perhaps. Actually, I think the lioness just took a nap in the seat of the sky goat after that. Out with you! Oh God, who put all these screws through here?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Not the consequences of my actions. Now I just have a screwdriver stuck in it instead. Ah, there we go. We all know parking brakes are for cowards. We don't need that.
Yeah.
Bingo! This particularly fat lioness was eyeing the sky goat with hunger in her eyes. We gotta paint our new rear end up something fancy like. I think Kubota orange.
Oh yes, very tasteful.
Yes.
Orange means caution and danger.
And speed. Check out the new powder coating booth. Yeah, we're really coming up in the world. I'm gonna go ahead and put new springs in it too. See that? Yes. You think this is what they had in mind when they sent this to me? Everything's looking pretty much brand new around here. That needs one more coat, so while we wait for that to dry, I'm going to install lower control arms and yank the shocks out of the thing. I'm going to go ahead and replace the bolts for the control arms. You can actually see on this original bolt, see how worn that thing is? That's from it riding in that bushing for the last 60 years nearly. So new grade 8 hardware that I had in a drawer that's clearly been used is perfect. So these are anti-hop bars. These are factory. Installed on all V8 manual transmission cars from 64 to 7 to control wheel hop. So these will help because they triangulate the lower control arm to the upper control arm if you're smart enough to be able to install them. And that is a big if. There it is. Look, I did it. I'm a genius. This slides over the end of the bolt. And you just tighten it down and double nut that upper control arm. And it lines up perfect right here. These are factory boxed lower control arms off of my Le Mans. And they're boxed because you can put a sway bar on it and have a rear sway bar. This is my recipe for traction on an A-body. Anti-hop bars, boxed control arm to stiffen the lower end of things, then a solid rear sway bar bolts the left and right lower control arm together. So we're bolting our upper control arms to the lowers, and we're boxing the whole thing. It should be excellent for traction until I put air shocks on it and ruin everything that I've just accomplished because I want to look cool. Step 1 in my plan for incognito traction is complete. Alright, I'm trying to get this brake line off, get the shocks out of here, and just get prepped to put the new rear end in. Which just is putting the second coat of pumpkin on. Shocks are out of the way, and that's pretty much as far as we can go with that for now, till our pumpkin dries. Remember last time you saw this car and I welded the filler neck into the gas tank upside down? Well, I'm not going to redo that. I did try bending it down, and that did work, but it also cracked all the JB weld I used around it, and now I don't trust it. I bought a tank for a 1967 GTO that I think will fit right in here, and it has a filler neck attached to it. Revolutionary. Now, since you guys have already seen me rip a gas tank out of this car and put one in, I think I'm just going to knock this out real quick. But if you haven't seen me do that, make sure you check out the last video on this Skylark. Well, it turns out that the 67 GTO gas tank, not a direct fit. It kind of hangs out a little bit. We can put gasoline in the car now. And I even have a license plate door. I just had to space it off about an inch from the bumper. But you know what? You put a tag on it, I don't think anybody's going to notice. The bumper's wrecked anyway. Tomorrow we'll stick the rear end in when I get done with some other projects I got going, but just kind of working on this thing in the background. Another night of working on the off time here. We need to pull our studs through to mount the third member in this thing, and I'd like to at least get this rear end stuck up in the hole tonight. These just press in like a wheel stud, but you can't get to the back side of them, of course. I use a nut and another nut there. We can just hook up the lower control arms, then lift the whole unit up into place. We'll have to see what it looks like with the upper control arms attached, and we may have to adjust the lower control arm mount. There's 5 positions for it. I picked the one in the middle because I don't really know what to do. Jack her up. We're gonna make sure our springs end up in their pockets, of course. Don't like that. Took a little doing, but we got her in here. I don't think the angle looks too bad on it. Ready?
Yep.
I'm glad they got their own buckets now. Ugh. Jesus.
Time to play this game again.
Oh my God, every time. We got 350 gears, 31 spline with a Positrack in it. Use them.
Will it just pop out?
Bucket. I mean, it's brilliant, and you get a free bucket, but still, like, guys, some cardboard would be fine. There.
There we go.
That's one of the better ones. Oh, look at that beauty. And you know why I like to have them do it? I'm not nearly attentive enough to set up gears in a rear end properly. Hold that jack still.
Yep.
I also like to use the lube locker gaskets that they have. It sure is a lot easier than messing with a bunch of nasty RTV. Lower the jack.
Lower?
Yep. And we can suck her down the rest of the way.
Yeah. There's the other 2.
So I just bought a 64 Le Mans convertible, piece of crap, and I figured the Pontiac drive shaft would be slightly shorter, and it is. It's about probably over a 1/4 inch shorter, and considering this one already fits Extra 1/4 inch might be all we need. Here's something else for a little more traction. Clean it up, get a coat of paint on it. Then we'll stab some axles in the thing and brakes and try to make a little more headway on it. Just working on it on the side. I'm going to paint it gold. That way it looks like Performance under there. Wow, that's very gold.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Well, I'm committed now. I got the zinc plated grade 8 bolts here. You know, it's got to match. So I'll give you a couple of those. Technically, you should have a bigger front sway bar than this. This is probably the same size as the front sway bar. Yeah, that'd be fine. All that careful thought I put into making sure this thing has traction and doesn't wheel hop, I will destroy by putting air shocks on. Because A, it'll look cool, and B, we're going to be traveling over the course of a week. We're going to have luggage and tools and everything in here. Get like an extra 500 pounds of capacity just using these. So what I could probably do when we start racing is I could probably sag these out and make them nice and squishy. See, this one I teed the two together back here with this thing. And that's how they come now, and they do that so they don't have to give you as much line, and so I hate it. On this car there was just enough line that we could tuck it up here and we'll be able to get an air chuck under there to air the shocks up. Alright, let's see if they leak. Aired up?
Yeah. Zeroed up.
I forgot to do anything to our third member as far as coating goes. I don't want it to be orange though, because that would look dumb and chump. I want it to look like iron. So I'm just going to clear coat it so it doesn't rust. It's a spray can clear. Believe it or not, the stuff actually works pretty good. These are the drums that Quick provides. They come with complete assembled brakes. They're Ford brakes, 11-inch Ford brakes. They're like off of a Torino or, you know, full-size Ford. We better decorate them. I have this cast iron spray paint, which you can tell looks just like the cast iron. It's almost time to put the finishing touches on our axle here, except for there's one problem. The backing plate won't seat. Why is that? It's my fault. I had them custom make this rear end a little bit narrower so the wheels would fit in the wheel lip here. And, well, my fault, because I cheaped out and went with drum brakes. If I'd have gone with disc brakes, that'd be just fine. But no, we got to save a buck, even though I didn't pay for it. But still needed to save a buck, and we're hitting right there. So, well, what do we do here? Well, it's pretty clear. We just cut this nub off of the backing plate here. If it was a 1/4 inch wider, it would be just fine. I had to make it a 1/4 inch narrower. Fixed! That's pretty good. I've been having to grind this spot right here as it touches the shock mount right here, just slightly. Alright, let me get the welder out so I can weld these holes up. We wouldn't want to get any water in the brakes or anything, you know. Okay.
You're a really good welder.
I know, you can't even tell, can you? Look how shiny it is. I'm kind of a pro. I know. That birdsong guy, you got nothing on me. With our new Performance lightened backing plates, we're sure to win at the strip now. Alright, we're all ready to bolt this on. This is the axle retainer. You need that to retain the axle. It's science. There we go. It's a very tight fit, but it works. One down, let me knock out the other side. JD's getting our vent hose attached. Our axles are in. I'm going to do brake lines real quick. And real quick really does mean real quick, because it comes with brake lines. I mean, never used this kind of line before, but imagine it'll work. Beats the hell out of making my own. I'm going to use this. Yeah, but honestly, this rear end is a bargain for the price. Brake lines. We'll try to bleed them, but not until we get a drive shaft figured out, and we got to put grease in this thing too. I don't remember if it's supposed to have limited slip additive. I'm pretty sure they would put a big red tag on it that says use limited slip additive. It's got a nice fill hole right on the top here. You can actually get a whole jug up here to fill it. I think it holds like 2.5 quarts. I'm going to put some limited slip additive in it. I don't know if it needs it, but it's not going to hurt anything if it doesn't, probably. Here's the original drive shaft. There's the one out of that convertible that's about a 1/4 inch shorter. I'm going to try that one. This rear end is made to fit right in place of the 10 bolt. We'll see what it looks like. I think it's going to fit. I'm going to clean these up, We need to see if they've been replaced before, and if they haven't been, we have to heat them up to get the plastic out. I see an inside snap ring on that one, so they should be a little bit easier to get out. I know this yoke fits. I think we need that one. I think this one is different. It's for a 2-speed transmission. Yeah, it's got inside clips on it, and that tells you that it is a Saginaw 3R U-joint. It is a little heavier duty than a 1310, but it's smaller than a 1350. You can just pry those inside clips out with a screwdriver, and that's going to let you press the cap through it. But that's where things get tricky. Somebody sent me a U-joint and ball joint tool a long time ago, and I've never used it, so I'm going to give it a shot this time. Put it up on my workbench here. I tell you what, that makes life a lot easier. Thank you to whoever sent that in. I mean, like a long time ago, and I had it sitting in the house in the living room for like the last year. We're done with that one. Yoke gutted, old U-joint going back into stock. I'll put it in something eventually, guaranteed. Let's go clean this up on the wire wheel so it's brand new again. Just like it came out of the foundry. Let's put a new U-joint in this so it's done. Then we'll start tearing apart this convertible drive shaft here and put new U-joints in it and install and cross our fingers. What the hell is this? I've never seen that in my life. It's kind of smart, actually. You could actually service your U-joint. I don't know how that's going to work. I may have to put a little socket on it or something. Call me crazy, but I think this Chinese precision U-joint is made incorrectly. They won't press on any further onto the U-joint body. I can't get the inside clip on. I can get one. That one's almost there. This one's almost there. That doesn't really do you much good, though. Just check to make sure I didn't drop a needle in there, and I didn't. I don't know what the hell is wrong with this thing. If you hold them up to each other, you can see that the old U-joint, look how much further in the locking rings go. I know it looks like this one isn't on all the way, but it is. It's as far as it'll go. It won't go no further than that. I had a Moog U-joint laying around, and you can see it has the wide groove on it, and you can see that it's the same U-joint, but when you line them up, you got way more inside surface area to put a clip on. Well, would you look at that, it works. This is why I always rip on O'Reilly's and pretty much any parts store, but especially O'Reilly's, because they sell and source this crap here. It doesn't even work. You can't use this. So, and it's not because it inconveniences me, but today's Sunday. What if you had to get to work tomorrow on Monday? What if you had to get up and go to work in the morning, and you're betting on being able to put the drive shaft back in your car so you can drive it, and no, you're screwed because they had to source it from China. Come on, just source better parts. Even if they're not made in USA, just make sure they work. My God. The drive shaft is stripped of its U-joints and ready to be made brand new again. I bet you guys didn't see this coming. We're putting an aluminum drive shaft in it. I know. Really low on the budget. All aluminum. It's for lightweight. It helps the engine rev faster. We're going to assemble our brand new aluminum drive shaft. And there we are. Took a little doing. Turns out this drive shaft that sat in that convertible for the last 30 years is kind of bent on the ends, and it had a lot of crud built up in the caps. I'm sure it's fine. Look at that. We got plenty of slip yoke with this drive shaft. Granted, the suspension is all the way relaxed right now, but it also has air shocks. No, I think it'll be okay. That's quite a bit. And reusing the old straps. Huge no-no, by the way. If we have problems with this, I'm going to go to Simmons Automotive in Tucson while we're down there. Have Danielle there make us a new drive shaft, because she did a hell of a job on the Holy Goat last year when I destroyed that drive shaft that I made myself. There seems to be a theme here. The angle's not super weird. Again, I know this isn't how you check an angle. We need to have a load on the suspension, but it's just not going to move that much. That's under the hood next. Well, we got to bleed these brakes. Do that tomorrow. JD's busy mowing today, so I'm going to use my automatic bleeder thing here, and it should work good enough for this. We only have to do the rears. Technically, you should also do the fronts, but yeah, well, you know, who's counting? Hopefully the proportioning valve isn't tripped. That's going to be our only kicker here. See if we get anything coming out of it at all. Well, we got some flow coming. These are theoretically bled now, as they feel. Well, they feel like brakes, I guess. Maybe I'll just hit them a bunch, and we'll see if the fluid level drops. Nothing under the car, that's good. Fluid level stayed up. I call them good enough. I mean, it's not like we're going to be racing or anything. Now you can see why I had the rear end narrowed 1/4 inch on each side. It will just barely clear the tire now. With the 1/4 inch we already trimmed out of the wheelhouse. So that's as good as that gets, I think. Couldn't go much further. I did forget that this tire is all cut to shit, so I better mount a new tire on this before I put it on the car. Then we can get under the hood. We'll use that as a spare. There we go. It's mounted up. I've had an extra old Western wheel. I bought 7 of those. That's what I was originally going to put on this, but ended up liking the snowflakes better. We'll mount this tire on there. Then we have a tire that's at least the same height as the other rear, and I think they'll fit on the front as well. More importantly, it needs to be the same height as this. We have a blowout on the rear. I don't want to trash the rear end because of it, you know. It'll get us to a tire shop at least. Little bit Joe dirt in the back, but again, let's remember we're going to have like at least 200-300 pounds of luggage and tools in the trunk, so that's going to level her out a bit. Basically, we're going to rip the whole top end of this 350 off. We're going to do it in the car because I want to demonstrate that you can do this at home. We have a whole bunch of goodies from Butler Performance specifically made to work on this 350 Pontiac, but it would also work on a 400 or a 455 or a 389 or any of them. They all are the same engine. This is a Pontiac 350, not a Chevy 350, not a Buick or an Olds 350. It is its own unique engine. Let's start with hoses, radiator, and accessories. All this we'll be needing to keep. Well, not the radiator. I have a new one of those. Allow me to remove the self-tappers, retaining the radiator. Kiss this thing goodbye. It's got a big ass hole in it. As we learned the last time we drove it. Yeah, this is a slight problem. I think it's just the radiator though. We'll have to flush the cooling system on this thing. I reviewed the video where I got this running in that red 71 Le Mans Sport that was becoming one with the earth. The cooling system looks real bad. So while it's apart, we're gonna give it a good thorough flush. There you go. Oh god, I forgot what this looks like inside. God.
Great.
Well, we're replacing all that anyway, so you know, yeah, it'll be fine. I'm sure the rest of the engine's great. I like to just flop. Way to go, JD. You had to put that right there, huh? You know what? One more mistake like that and the shop's gone. Understand? I'm gonna light it on fire and collect the insurance money. That's it!
Whoa.
I'm not an expert, but I think it might need a belt. You'll note that I literally took this motor out of that red Le Mans and put it in here. And that's it. I didn't even put spark plugs in it. I mean, that's it. Sometimes a good thing. Sometimes you might dream a little too big and think you can do something with something like this. Guess we'll find out. We're going to pull the Dizzy out of here, only because we're changing the cam. Got to pull the lower pulley, got to pull the balancer, intake, heads, etc. Off comes the fuel pump. This baby's brand spanking new. May want to look into replacing this pulley. Oh my god. This one's okay. This is the only one that matters. This air conditioning pulley is literally rotted away. Look at that. Whole pieces are gone. We'll be reusing that. Tech tip, anytime you open up a hole in the engine, just stuff a rag in it.
Okay.
Just for a little bit of security. One nice thing about Pontiacs are the damper. This is not a balancer, by the way. This is a damper. This isn't pressed onto the crank, so you just unbolt it and it'll come off without a puller. Yeah, pretty easy on these. I think a front seal replacement is likely in order. What do you think?
Yeah, probably.
That's a long time's worth of dirt sticking to oil leaking out of that thing.
Nobody likes this music at school anymore.
What?
No.
What?
No, they don't.
Why? I did put a new water pump on this. Oh, looks like I'm going to need to put a new water pump on this. So these are the super cheapy ones that are available now with the stamped steel impeller. And everybody says they're a problem. I have never had a problem with it. I could see why you would, though. God, this thing's in bad shape. Look what you've done, JD. I have to lay in this lake of death because I forgot that there's 4 oil pan bolts in the timing cover. Haha! Behold! That came off a lot easier than I thought it was going to. This thing's in pretty good shape. These timing covers tend to corrode and break. This one looks okay. I think it'll clean up. I don't see any evidence of timing chain slap inside of it. That's good. Just a lot of stress cracks. That'll be fine. Oh, this timing chain is fucked. I was about to say, oh, pretty good. No, it's not. Oh. This side's like, how was it running?
Yeah, how was...
Because it's a Pontiac, that's why. Oh, the fuel pump sensor is wasted too. Oh my god. How many miles does this thing have on it? We'll keep this baby for sure. That's an oldie. Performer Pontiac. We gotta pull the valley pin and then get this timing assembly off here. I can do that right now. No, I can't. It's very stuck. Oh boy.
Pretty stuck.
Oh, I hope that's an original one. There it goes. There. That thing was on there. That's either an original one that all the nylons wore off of, or it's a replacement. I really hope it's not a replacement. JD said I'm pulling the rocker arms and push rods. Keep an eye out for anything odd. Didn't sound like it ran weird though. We're not going to be reusing any of it, otherwise I would say keep them in order. Yeah. Looks like a very high mileage engine.
This is the bad one.
Nasty.
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and pull the thrust plate for the cam. Another nice thing about Pontiacs is you can get the lifters out pretty easy, but when they get wore out like this, they get mushroomed really bad. They have a sharp edge on them. And sometimes they need to come out through the bottom. Sometimes a little persuasion will get them out through the top or get them stuck. What the fuck? There was a nut inside of the engine. We didn't put that there. That's been in there for a long time. There's a nut. It's just been sitting in the engine. I would really prefer to pull these through the top. They might go. Let me get a pair of vice grips actually and try to wiggle them. And if not, I want to at least shove them all up this high, pull the cam, and that way they don't fall into the engine. They fall into the engine's got to come out. There you go. Okay. I'm good with that, if we can do that. I've seen worse. It's not as mushroomed as it could be. You want to see a little bevel to it. You know, you don't want them to be flat across. That would be bad. That little bevel is where it's been spinning on the cam for its whole life. So that's pretty normal. And it's normal wear, just, you know, it is indicative of how many miles are on the engine. 4 left here. These 4 are fighters. It's close, but I got them. Alright, let's get the cam out next. We're going to want to find a bolt that will thread into the end of that so I can kind of hold it up while I yank it out. Think that's going to come out?
Yeah.
Or do I need to pull the grill?
I think that's going to come out.
Think so?
Yeah.
You're right. I couldn't find a longer bolt than the one that was in it, so... Oh, good. It's stuck. Man, I sure know how to pick them. Sometimes, rather than pulling straight out, if you can twist a little bit with it, you can avoid destroying the cam bearing. There we go. Just like that. Alright, so what we don't want to do is nick up our cam bearings. And the way you do that is generally by dragging the distributor gear across them. So if you get your fingers in the back here to kind of hold it up and support it. Just walk it bearing to bearing. Whew.
It's gonna be close.
Real close. Made it though. Factory cam. This front cam bearing's got, no, it's good. I think it's had a set put in it. They're in actually pretty good shape. There's a little burr on this one here. That's from me though. I don't know. I mean, they're still silver. It's not bad. There's no grooves. I'm fine running these. I'll probably take a little emery cloth and just smooth out the burrs on that one where I nicked it. Alright, so just like when you put a head on, there's a correct way to take it off as well. You should do it in sequence. Now, either do the outsides to the inside, or you can do inside to outside.
Inside,
either way.
inside.
That's what I do. I've seen worse. You know what's cool? Look at this. It's chamfered already. Note the head gasket. See how they're ovals? That's chamfered for a big valve head. 1968, there was the HO 350. It used a 211 intake valve on it. It was a good running little motor. Well, they had to chamfer the cylinders bigger to fit that valve. That casting floated around for the next few years. Sometimes you get lucky. Sometimes your 350's already chamfered for big valve heads. And we actually got lucky here. I thought I was going to have to grind the heads myself. GM already did it for me. This looks bad, and it is, but I'm feeling for a cylinder ridge here. And there really isn't much of one. Probably okay. What you want to do is run your thumbnail up and down the cylinder wall. See if it catches anywhere. Now that back bolt is a trick around the steering column. We got it, but I think before we put the new heads on, we better make sure we put that bolt in there and then drop the head on that bottom back lower bolt hole. I'm saying this for my own use, not so much your guys's. This is a good stopping place for a little while. We're stripped down. We got to clean thoroughly. I feel 75% confident. 65% confident that it's fine. Back out here, again, just working in the off time. I've pulled the drain plug out of the engine so that we can flush everything out, and that being the case, hopefully everything makes it out. If it doesn't, it is what it is. These are all coolant passages here, and they were plugged solid, which is bad. You want cooling. Cooling is good. We need to get this as clean as we possibly can. And the way we're going to do that is, first off, we're going to clean the heads of the pistons and everything with this super clean and one of Jess's scrubbies from She Shed Creative on Etsy. I'll put the link right here, then down in the description there's a link too if you want some. She makes them herself, she crochets them. They're gentle enough to work, but not hurt anything, so we can get that, look at that piston. It's like new. It's really not too bad in here. Just a little scrubbing. Now I'm going to take a wire brush and run it. Just try to clean this head surface off as best as I can. I don't like to use a wire wheel on a die grinder. Not really because I'm worried about making imperfections in the surface. More so, I'm worried about the little dingleberries that fly off of the thing and end up everywhere, and you definitely don't want one of those floating around. This is a little bit safer. Let's see if we can't flush out some of these coolant passages. I'll inject some super clean. Maybe it'll do something. Okay, it's starting to flow out of that jacket. There we go. Ew. I'm going to deglaze the cylinder walls with a piece of 1200 grit sandpaper. We're going to hone it. I'm not going to do anything crazy. I just want to break the glaze on the wall. I don't want them to be a mirror finish. So if we're going to have any hope of this thing sealing, we're just going to break it up a little bit. And then a little bit up and down motion. And you can see there, that hole looks a lot better now. See that?
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It's worth a shot. I mean, the rings can't be that bad. They hold water. Cooling system is still pretty scaby in there.
Like this one.
It should be coming up the top, I imagine. Somewhere. Oh, it's going to end up pouring out the front. Well, we just may not be able to get to those. But we've done what we can, at least.
That's pretty clear.
I mean, I'll just try to backwash it, I guess. Oh,
Dirty.
dude, is that coming out of here? Oh, whoa. That's crazy. Okay. Well, we're committed now.
Yeah,
We may as well
let's
do
do
this. Just the man I wanted to see.
Yeah.
You're kind of an expert with the brake clean.
Yes, yes, I am. I'm an expert brake clean applier and consumer.
Oh, let's soak the cylinders up and then hose this sumbitch, oil her down so she doesn't rust up on us.
And then all the motor trend fairies will come put the engine together tomorrow, overnight.
Arm yourself, boy. Go right down to the pan and the valley. Any loose debris in there, we want to wash it right out the bottom or off of it. Pretty much anything. Anything other than being in it.
I believe it is properly oiled and spuied.
Yes, it is plenty oiled up, that's for sure. Today's video is brought to you by AG1. AG1 is a drink mix that I take every single day, and it's got probiotics in it, it's got vitamins, minerals, and the reason I take it is for the gut health. I'm not the healthiest guy in the world, so I figure that anything I do like this has got to help, right? You guys have seen me talk about AG1 a lot, and that's because I take it. I'm not going to promote a product that I don't believe in, and I take AG1 every single day, and I know I feel better for it. I have more energy, which is good whenever I'm working on stuff all day, every day. I'll work 12 to 14 hours a day, and I need all the help I get. This makes a big difference. Use my link in the description or scan this QR code here. You'll get free travel pouches, which I use all the time. We're leaving for duct tape drags in a week, and you can bet that our duffel bag will be full of AG1 travel pouches. And you'll also get a dropper of vitamin D3 and K2. So thanks to AG1 for sponsoring today's video. Let's get back to work. Huzzah! We have more spare time today. So let's put a cam in. This is a Comp Cam's roller cam. They also have retrofit roller lifters here. And I'm doing a roller cam because I think it's all settled with the flat tappet dilemma, but I had at least 3 engines die with flat tappet cams because the cams went flat, and that's either the lifter or the cam. There's a lot of debate about it. Regardless, there's one way to make sure it's not ever a problem, and that's roller lifters. See how these are tied together with a T-bar up here. They have little wheels on them. That little wheel rides on the cam. On a flat tappet cam, the lifter spins in place. It has to spin. If it doesn't spin, they grind and go flat. Well, you just eliminate that from being an issue at all with a roller cam. Not to mention, you get higher performance out of them too. Way more lift, way more aggressive cams, and it's easier on the valve train. This baby is $495 on the intake side, $503 on the exhaust side, and $218 and $224 at 50. We're going to be using 165 roller rockers as well, so you can multiply that lift by 1.65. I don't do math. I don't know what it means. Anyway, if you got a Pontiac and you need something, just go to Butler Performance, period. It's literally a one-stop shop for everything from like a valley pan to roller cams to aluminum heads to everything you're going to see here is a complete top-end kit for a Pontiac 350. Nobody else sells that, okay? And it's not just stuff they bought and then resell to you. It's stuff that they assemble and put their market quality on, which is, it's as good as it gets, all right? They are the best. I'm going to paint this real quick, this valley pan. We need this because it'll clear the roller rockers. And they even provided engine paint.
They're so good.
Dude, they're the best.
They are.
Hey, they're something metallic.
That's pretty. Oh, wow.
Heck yeah. We'll have to Krylon rebuild the lower end, but our upper end will be actual rebuild. That's a shaft there. Anyway, we're going to lube this thing up before I put it in. You all should always do this anytime you install a cam. You'll note I'm wearing gloves, and that's not because I'm a bitch. It's because I don't want to get the oils from my hands on this cam. It's a little thing, but it is something that I have heard makes a difference, so I do it. Does it really? I don't know. And I don't have to wear moly graphite for a week. I'm going to put about halfway in up to that bearing. The bearings that we're ignoring. I'm going to put up to there, and then we will readdress as required. We're going to put it in and try to be as careful as we possibly can be. Actually, it already wiped that off, so get a little bit down on these bearings, just so they're not going together dry. There we go. Now we're up to the point where we had stopped lubing, so let's go ahead and continue lubing. Yes. And there we go. Installed. I'm going to put some more moly on top of those lobes. And then we'll put moly on the bottom of the lifters too, because I'm paranoid. Now these are a hydraulic roller lifter. Same principle as a hydraulic flat tappet lifter. There's a plunger inside. Oil is pressurized and shot into here, pumps up the lifter, and then it's able to self-adjust, basically, maintaining zero lash. Solid lifters are completely solid, and you have to adjust them. But this design's been around forever. Old timers say to soak your lifters in oil for a while before you put them in. Something I have always done, and I've had good luck. It could be completely unrelated. I don't care. I don't think there's anything to lose by taking a little extra precaution. And we've got some stuff to do in the meantime anyway. You don't gotta soak them in anything particular. I just have some clearance oil here. We just want them, we don't want to start it up dry. Let them marinate for a while. Get them all the way covered up. This dude is the camshaft thrust plate. Retains the cam in the block. Then we'll put our timing chain on. Now this thrust plate torques to 12 foot-pounds according to Butler's website, and that's pretty much just hand tight with a 3/8 drive ratchet. Here's our new billet timing chain from Butler. Again, way too nice of stuff for this engine. You can see here we could advance or retard it a little bit. I'm not going to do that. We're just going to install it straight up on 0. 0 is here. We're going to line up this dot here. So you can install them at, if the crank is at 12 o'clock like this, and this dot is also at 12 o'clock, that's number 1 top dead center. That makes kind of assembling it later is easier. Or we can put 0 here and then put the dots together here just to make it a little easier, and then rotate the engine once and it'll be on top dead center. And then I'm going to point the 0 tooth at noon. I'm going to put a paint mark on it because I can't see it. What we'll do now is line up this dot with that blue dot I just made. Put the chain around the cam gear. There, that's it. With the crank gear at 12 o'clock, our cam gear should also be at 12 o'clock, and it is. This is a fuel pump eccentric. You know what an eccentric is? The hole is off-centered. So when you bolt this down in the middle of this, it makes an eccentric. You know, like Pluto, that's the one that has an eccentric orbit in like the sky. It's because it's an oval. It's like a little cam, and this drives your fuel pump. Put it on here, fuel pump rod goes here, pump, off, pump, off. This eccentric is keyed. It's got a hole in the cam right there. Let's torque this 45 foot-pounds. See if I can do it without rolling the engine. I forgot I need to clean this. Not that it's dirty or anything, but I'm not going to do it near the engine. So I got to clean and paint this before we finish assembling the front of the engine. We got to change these rubber rings too. I'm going to replace the air conditioning pulley. Even though we don't have air conditioning, we still need the pulley to space the lower pulley out appropriately. So I have a better one here, a little bit better than this one. I just could see that coming apart. We'll throw that in the scrap pile. So we got to get the oil seal out, and we got to get these rubber O-rings out. Now you can replace this whole sleeve in here, and honestly, like in this case, we probably should, because they're pretty corroded, but I don't have them, therefore it's not getting done. I don't know how the hell to get these out. Actually, I have an idea how to get those out. We'll melt them out. There we go. That's how that's done. I wouldn't necessarily recommend doing this on gravel, but I mean, I would have to get up, pick it up, bring it in there, put a little bit of silicone on the outside of this seal, and that usually takes up any kind of porosity inside of that pop metal cover there. Place that in there like that. Make sure it's reasonably straight. That shouldn't go in there that easily. That's put a block of wood on it, and there you go. Before reinstalling the timing cover, I figured out how to fix the pits around the water deck. Let's get the stuff in the tube like this. You mix it up and then just work it into those areas. Once it dries, you can sand it. And you could, if you were of a mind to, you could replace this timing cover. And they make them, but they're kind of crappy. I've had a couple, and they the problem is that the hole for the crank isn't centered. I'll push it in real good. I'm going to leave it a little bit fat, maybe. Hopefully that sets up overnight, and then we can just sand it down, and we'll be in good shape to reinstall. I think I'm going to go ahead and put the lifters in it. We're going to want to make sure that they move in and out nice and easily, like that. I don't want them to be biting or catching on anything. That would be bad. Behold the secret to our having any chance here. The Butler machined and worked cylinder head. Well, kind of. It's an Edelbrock casting. Butler buys them bare, and they assemble them so you know everything is just right. This one is for a 350. It's been milled to get a 65cc chamber, which is going to put us in the ballpark of 10-to-1 compression on this little guy. Let me get this out. I did have them do something very special. Notice how it doesn't say Edelbrock anywhere on it. That's because I had them remove it for a charge, 140 bucks or something like that. They'll mill off every marking on the aluminum heads, so you paint them and they look, you know, more or less like a regular Pontiac head to the untrained eye. Typically, they will work these things and port them, polish them. Their head work is second to none in the Pontiac world. For this case, they and I agree that there's no reason to. Port velocity is going to help us more than added flow on this thing, because it's just not a super high performance engine. That 350's bore can only take in so much air. It would just be a waste. We'd probably end up shooting ourselves in the foot more than anything. Plus side of these over an iron head is the heart-shaped chamber. That's a fast burn chamber. It's less prone to detonation, and it's just an overall much better design. It's a modern design, kind of first seen in the 90s, and not to mention we just knocked about 100 pounds off the front of the car just by running aluminum heads. Now they did provide a very high quality metal head gasket, but I just happen to have these new old stock 350 head gaskets. Why would we use these instead? Well, even though their gaskets are very good, and they were close to the shape of the bore, these are new old stock GM. These will fit directly around the bore perfectly. You can see that these fit almost perfectly around each bore. And that's good, because we're going to need all the help we can get. I may put a little bit of copper coat on the block side of this head gasket, just in case, it's not perfectly level anymore. Some of you guys are going to say it's a bad idea, and some of you will say that's a great idea. Old school guys would spray paint both sides of their head gasket and stick it on there. Something to help take up the imperfections. Not a bad idea. I don't think we need to do that on the aluminum side of things here. I mean, that's going to be perfect. But the block might leave some to be desired. So we're going to put a very light coat of copper coat on these things. And hopefully that'll kind of help take up any imperfections in the block. Let that tack for a second. I'm going to get my ARP bolts out and ready to rock and roll. Got all the ARP bolts organized from biggest to shortest in my bolster here. There are 6 different lengths of bolts that you have to use, I guess. I don't know why, but hey, whatever. Go ahead. Pop this dude on. I'm gonna run all these down by hand in order. You know, start in the middle, work your way out. Run a little bit of a time crunch because of that copper coat. So, ARP bolts say to torque in 3 steps up to 100 foot-pounds. I figure getting them like this is probably something like 15 or 20. Next step we'll go 40, then 80, then 100. Take it to about 40. A certain Chinese company sent me a torque wrench that I stupidly accepted, and I wasn't really trusting my old beam style torque wrench, which was a mistake. Their torque wrench over-torqued the bolts by nearly 30 pounds, forcing me to back them all off and start over, using my other click type wrench that I trust and verifying it with my beam wrench. It was kind of a mess, and I only mention this because it is important later in this video. I'm just now remembering that this might be where all the problems came from. Well, we got one down. Let me try to pop the other one on. Well, it's on there. That back bolt there, I have almost destroyed the head of it. I got it torqued to 70 pounds, clicking off, and then it rounded, and I was able to put a 3/8 ratchet on it with a chunk of pipe, and I got a little bit more of a tug on it. It's just gonna have to be good enough. Tomorrow we will install push rods. Red alert, red alert. I'm gonna do this wrong. Okay, I figured that those guys had built, you know, hundreds or maybe even thousands of engines in this combination, right? So they probably know what length of push rod to put in. So I said, just send me, you know, something you think is gonna work off one of your old blueprints. It's probably right, but we're gonna check it to make sure, and if not, I still have time. I could order some custom push rods. Probably don't do this unless you're working with a company like Butler that knows their shit inside and out. I wouldn't just take Joe Schmo's advice on this. I guess before I turn in for the night, I could dump some oil in the thing while she's wide open. I am using VR1, but we don't need the zinc anymore, so that's pretty cool. Now we're gonna do the wrong thing. I'm gonna put this push tube in. I want to make sure that our cam is on the base circle, meaning the opposite side of the lobe or close. Thankfully I left the valley off. We are on the base circle of the cam, meaning there won't be any load on these lifters. The point of that is that we have to set up one of these with a rocker arm and see if our push rod travels about right. Color the valve stem with a Sharpie. And we'll take one of our fancy new Butler roller rockers and we're going to install him. We're going to lash this appropriately. See how I'm moving the push tube right now? I'm going to take it down with my fingers until I feel a little bit of resistance. Nope, there it is. And then I'm going to go about half a turn past that. That's the wrong wrench. Here's the right wrench. Go exactly 1/2 of a turn. And there you go. That is 0 lash theoretically. So I'm looking at the tip. It looks okay. But the way we verify this for sure is to rotate the engine twice. We'll make 2 full revolutions. The thing goes up and down, up and down. Then we're going to look at our Sharpie mark and see if it's too long, too short, maybe it's just right, maybe it's close enough. 1 full revolution. We're going to take this off and look at our mark. And you can see a very clear mark on that valve stem. It's a little bit short, but it's not walking around and moving. And see, that's what we want to avoid. We've got, if you would want this to be, I don't know, 1,000, you know, 10 thousandths a little longer maybe. Well, I sent a picture of our mark to Butler Performance and he agrees with me. It's a little bit short. Said it'd probably be just fine because this thing's not a high RPM machine. But regardless, we're going to play it on the safe side. There's a couple of ways you can measure for push rods. One of them requires you to disassemble. You know, you got to take a valve spring out. You got to put on one valve spring back on it. Tester push rod, measure for length, or you just guess. So we know that it needs to move out, what, 20 thousandths maybe. So just a little bit longer of a push rod, and we'll be in good shape. In the meantime, I can go ahead and put the timing cover on. I don't see why I can't do that. We can install our polymer gear onto the distributor. I got a pair of headers to put on it. If I really feel like punishing myself, we can dive into that. See all this pitting in this pot metal cover? No, you don't. You got to make the sound effect or it won't work. There we go. Then I'm going to leave it all loose because I got to put those oil pan bolts in. And if you tighten the front down, inevitably those oil pan bolt holes won't line up, and then you drive them in sideways and then it pukes oil out of it. We're waiting on push tubes, so might as well paint these aluminum heads. Now why would I do that? Well, it's because when I open the hood, I don't want Mr. Freiberger to see aluminum heads. I want him to at a glance go, huh, just some Pontiac. Paint them on the car would be just as easy as anything. If we do it now, I want to paint the head bolts, everything. I'll tape this off, and then I've got the old valve cover sitting on it to keep paint off of stuff in there. I don't like painting, you know, what, $2,500 worth of aluminum cylinder heads? Just to make them look as much like not aluminum cylinder heads as possible. Well, she's up in the air, precariously, I might say. I'm going to pull the starter off of it and swap to a mini starter. This is the original starter off of that Le Mans. It works totally fine, but with headers, we're going to be pretty tight, and we need all the clearance we can get. New starters on down there. Routing the starter wiring through the front, kind of like a Chevy does. We're not going to have room around the header, I don't think. And if you run it through the front, you'd never have to deal with it getting up against the exhaust. It's just a better way to do it. Not sure why they didn't do that from the factory. Got to get this thing sky high to try to install our new Doug's headers, which I got from Butler Performance. Installing headers is probably one of the worst things you'll ever do as a car person. And these are some of the best headers money can buy. They still don't fit worth a shit. I think I'd probably just buy the hookers for half the price if they're not going to fit any better than, you know, why spend more if you're just going to get crap anyway? Is it seated against the head?
No, you got about almost an inch of space.
Oh, good. I was really hoping I wouldn't have to do this. $2,000 headers, but here we go.
I beat the ever-loving hell out of these headers. I mean, I beat them 10 ways from Sunday, and they would not fit the car. Later, I learned that I had got sent the wrong headers, which explains why they didn't fit the car. Doug's lists 1967 to 72 A-body Pontiac headers and 1964 to 6. Obviously, that's incorrect. 64 to 67 are the same car, 68 to 72 are the same car. The later model headers will not fit.
Well, while this thing's in the air, I might as well change the motor mounts. I have a pair, so I'll throw them in. But I don't think it's motor mounts keeping these headers from fitting, because I just, you know, it's plenty high. It's plenty high. They should fit. If they were gonna fit, they would fit. New motor mounts are installed. You'll note that, well, it's exactly the same. It might be a touch higher on this side. I have a new plan. I spent too much time cutting the bolts off of that to get it out. I don't want to put studs in it. Screw that. Ram Air Restorations has these back in stock. They've been out of stock for literally years. So I'm going to order these. Now, their website's kind of screwed up right now, but I'm going to call them in the morning. I'm going to get these babies overnighted. We will have Ram Air headers on this thing. They will fit because they're factory headers. And then, not only that, they won't leak. They won't drag the ground. And they perform almost as good as a long tube header. Now I'm finding a few other little things to wrap up. One of them is going to be the plastic oil line we just put in for the oil pressure gauge. Once upon a time, there was this man named Chris Birdsong. He had a plastic oil line on his car, ran it down the strip at Duct Tape Drags, and proceeded to oil the whole track. So we're not going to do that. We're going to use a copper line here. You see, we'll use this. That way it doesn't melt through. And we don't ruin everybody's day like that guy, Chris Birdsong. We've got one other small thing we could do here. And that's, we have to change our distributor gear. This gear is, of course, iron. Something about it, like this will end up eating the cam gear if you're not careful. So they provided me with a polymer gear. This is soft, so the cam gear will kind of wear into this instead of the other way around. You go with the bronze gear. Supposedly these polymer gears last longer. Drive this roll pin out. Slide this off. Wow. A little snug. I just tapped it a couple times and she went right on. It's just a very tight fit. Like most of this stuff, it's just kind of higher end than I'm used to. And we're good to go. Our distributor is more or less correct. We could go ahead and install it. Thankfully, it's Pontiac, so there's no reason we can't install this now. Got a scratch on the firewall there with #1 points. Well, the distributor's in, and I think it's where I want it. But in today's episode of How the Hell Is This Thing Running? Where's the coil button? Anyway, I'll just throw this cap and coil I had laying around on and throw that in the trash, I guess. Got my new water pump in today. I got a few minutes editing video, but I figured I'd come out here and throw this on. And this is a cast iron impeller, as opposed to the stamped steel impeller, like that. The cast iron impeller is what it's supposed to have. I got that new old stock on eBay, shot a coat of paint on it, good to go. This is the diverter plate for a Pontiac. It's critical that you have this. Sometimes they get tossed or lost, and if you have overheating problems, it's a good chance, you know, this is rotting out or something like that. You can see that they do rot. This one still has some life left in it, but it's going to need replacing eventually. Let me shoot a few of these down, then we got to figure out how this accessory bracket crap goes on. There we go, I think I got it halfway figured out. You'll note the liberal application of anti-seize on the through bolts that pass through the timing cover into a water jacket to help me out later. Well, hopefully I never have to do it again, but just in case, it'll help me out later. It's been a couple of days. Celebrated a birthday in the meantime. I'm 31. It's the miles, not the years, kids. These are Ram Air exhaust manifolds. These are reproductions from Ram Air Restorations. Factory individual tube headers, basically. You can buy the lead pipes from Ram Air Restorations. Those were 75 bucks or so. And the correct flange. You just bolt that up and hook up your exhaust system. As you can see, I had to lift the engine again. But not nearly as bad. If you go up there, you can see that it actually fits reasonably well. Maybe. We'll see. Get our gaskets slipped in, and then we'll bolt it up to the best of our abilities. This side is the hard side on a Pontiac. It's always the passenger side. I have to remove not just the oil filter, but the oil filter adapter, which thankfully bolts to the side of the block, because the first Pontiac engine in 1955 didn't have an oil filter. In 1956, they made that adapter roughly real similar to that, and that casting continued on. Well, an oil filter adapter. I better clean the surface on the block and clean that up before we go much further. Both manifolds are installed. The motor is back set down. Passenger manifold fits freaking perfect. And the driver's manifold, well, it fits in the only place it possibly could. There is something to consider with these things, though. They're so fat around the block up there. They hug it, you know. This mini starter won't work. See how angled the solenoid is off to the side? And it is clockable, but the only clocking position it has puts it the wrong direction. It only has 2 positions. You know who fits in there just perfect? Old Reliable. The 1911 of automotive starters. I killed it. The start terminal stud broke off, so it needs a starter solenoid. I do, of course, have an extra Pontiac starter in stock. You can tell because I wrote Pontiac on it. Here's our factory starter installed, and you can see just how tight that solenoid is against the manifold there. Holy crap. We're gonna cook this thing. Paranoia got the better of me, and I figured probably ought to at least try to help this thing live. And so I've got some heat wrap here, and what it is not asbestos, so it doesn't work very good. But you know, we can't have asbestos because Something happened once. Will it do anything? Probably not, but it'll make me feel a little better. Our starter dilemmas are done for now. I'm sure we'll be re-shimming and whatnot, but it's on. Now let's put some tailpipes on. These are left and right hand side. They're made to dump right exactly where the factory dual exhaust goes, which is perfect because I have a pipes kit for it, which is factory dual exhaust. And here we go. Ignore the terrible floors. Look at the shiny exhaust. It's beautiful. We're about a fourth of the way there. We'll be using a pipes exhaust kit to get us out all the way out the back. Probably do that tomorrow, and hopefully our push rods show up in the meantime. We're still waiting for the push rods to show up. Thanks, UPS. I might as well go ahead and put exhaust on the car that doesn't run. This is all stainless. It's everything you need. Put dual exhaust all the way out the back. I went with the Street Pro muffler on this one. A little bit more mild, quieter than what we used on that 64 Le Mans. One thing I really like about the pipes kits is the factory style hangers. These just bolt in the factory location, and it's as simple as that. I've tried about 10 ways from Sunday to get this tailpipe up into the car, and that's just not going to happen. I think it's because we have a 9-inch back here, and this fabricated housing is just too much for these mandrel bent pipes. It might fit on that side, but, well, one tailpipe doesn't do us a whole lot of good. I suppose we'll just dump them right in front of the axle. I don't know what else to do. I'm going to make my life a little bit easier because now we can build it from the front back. And what I've determined is we're going to have to shorten these pipes that go into this X pipe here just a little bit. We did the same thing on that 4-speed car. I'm just going to shorten each of these pipes about, I don't know, half an inch each, cut little by little in equal sections so we can move that X pipe closer to the middle of the car where it'll hook onto our downpipes. Is there a way to tell how much I need to cut off of this side here of each pipe to determine what exact angle I need? Probably. Did I flunk math? Yes. We're just going to guess. And we'll just go with, oh no, about that much on both. As I was saying, I'm pretty much a geography major. It's perfect. We're going to clamp this up. Got to get our angle of the dangle right. We want it to run directly parallel with the frame. So get this X pipe in here, which is going to do approximately nothing. There we go. One home-grown ass exhaust system. Nothing like taking really good parts and making them terrible because I touched them. But it should work. Good news! My push rods have arrived. I think these are 10/1000ths of an inch longer, which should be just about right. I'm going to check them anyway, and as long as it looks good, we're going to run it. Just rotated it, slide this off. We're still just a hair on the short side, but it's closer to the middle. This is why you really need to measure it, but it'll run. This will be just fine. Let's throw it together. I'm going to put a dab of assembly glue on the tips of our push rod.
I installed all the push rods and went ahead and lashed the valves, and it was on to the intake.
Well, their valves are lashed. Now it's time to install what I consider to be the secret of the Pontiac motor. That is the valley pan. Your air and fuel charge is divorced from the engine because it's separate. It has a valley pan. It's kind of like an air gap intake. You know, there's a big gap between your air inlet charge and the engine. And that is good for power. I mean, it really does make a difference. Basically, this whole thing's a baffle. That's why there's a PCV in it. So your PCV goes here, and that evacuates your crankcase. I'm running into a bit of an issue with the intake here. It's not the intake so much as it is the valley pan. This is a repop valley pan. It's a little bit too tall on the sides for these heads. Heads are the problem. And also the intake hits it. So the Butler guys told me to bevel the intake runners. Just put a little grind onto there. And then I'm also going to grind the top edge of this valley pan. Just a little bit, not too much. You know, I ground away on that and it still didn't fit. But check this out. Looks like it fits perfect, right? I mean, it's just dry, but the reason it fits perfect is because I put just this random old valley pan I had around here on it. So I'll clean it up, throw some paint on it, and then we'll just use it instead. A little rougher around the edges than its friend, the reproduction, but that should work. There's one other little thing to using a stock valley pan on roller lifters. Note how there's nothing here on this one. This one is kind of a bigger area. So just this part has to be dented in to clear the roller lifter. And I forgot about that until the guys reminded me over there at Butler. So let me beat on that. Then we'll put a little bit of grease on top of the lifter there and just make sure that they're not hitting. Now we'll set this on. Now we'll roll the engine over a few times. And if it's hitting anywhere, that grease will leave a witness on the bottom of it. The other place I had a little bit of grease was back here in that corner. Not bad though. So I'll just put a ding in it right there, and I think it's good to go. You might ask yourself, what's that hole in the middle? Well, on a regular Pontiac, it'd be a big old square hole. It's an exhaust crossover. It comes from the center 2 cylinders on either side, and then basically fills the underside of the intake with exhaust gas. And that's to help the car warm up in the winter time, and you know, that just for drivability stuff. But I'm gonna block them off. I don't want that up there. We're gonna be driving somewhere hot, and I don't want any excess heat in this thing at all. I'll just glue him into place. When we set the intake on, should be good. While I'm waiting for the gaskets to set up here, I'm gonna go ahead and start throwing plugs at it. Now, because I have aftermarket heads, we can't just use Pontiac plugs anymore. So what I've got here are Autolite 3924. It's a 5/8 hex plug with a 3/4 inch reach. There's a couple of plugs that fit that application. This one is one of them. And it has a nickel plated body to it, which should help with plugs getting stuck in the aluminum. But just in case it doesn't, I'm going to put a little bit of anti-seize on the threads. Anytime you're putting plugs in an aluminum head, that's a good idea. And we're going to gap them to like 40 thousandths, which they actually are out of the box, surprisingly, so saves me a little work. Alright, I got 4 plugs in, but I bet it's time to put the intake on. Now, here's something to remember. See this little rubber O-ring in the front here? That's going to be important in a minute. Make sure you glue that in. There you go. I guess now that everything's on here, I gotta grind some more off this freaking intake. God damn it. This intake doesn't fit. I ground the valley pan almost to the point of not existing anymore, so that's going to leak for sure. And I've ground the bottom of the intake runners, and it still doesn't fit. So what that leaves you with is we're off about maybe 1/16 of an inch, maybe, probably less than that, on every single bolt hole. The heads have been milled. Our angles are wrong. So what I'm going to have to do is elongate every single one of these holes and then hope it seals. Guess I'm going to warble these holes out. And I hate to do that because it means that something's not right, is what this, you know, I'm covering something up by warbling these out. It should just bolt on. So we egged them all out, and now I can get one bolt in. After about an hour with a burr bit, I was able to oblong them all enough to get all the bolts in. Remember what I was saying about that O-ring before everything went to shit? As usual. I've got all the bolts started, so I'm going to gently snug this bolt. It pulls the whole intake forward, therefore sealing this on the water pump. And if you don't do that, if you tighten these bolts first and then tighten that, you're going to have a leak here. So always leave them loose and then tighten this up. Then you're free to go ahead and tighten up your intake bolts, which is going to take me about the rest of my life because they've moved so far inboard. Looks pretty cool, don't it?
Until it isn't mathing correctly.
Just had to kick me in the nuts one more time before I went to bed. I just wanted to bolt these on so I could be like, oh, this is all worth it. So Butler can make you, for your Pontiac, any custom valve cover you like. And so we, of course, went with Sky Goat. We also had to get our money's worth out of that goat head there, you know. Royalty-free goat head on there. So we got to get our dollars worth out of that. It's the same goat head as the Holy Goat valve covers. But, yeah. As long as we keep doing Pontiac engines that are goat branded, we'll be able to get those pretty cheap. Just to make me feel a little bit better, I spent a lot of money on this. This is for me. Not sponsored. They won't talk to me over there anymore at Holly, which is a shame. They're all about their fuel injection. But they let the good old double pumper go by the wayside. Look at him. He's such a sweetheart. 750 double pumper. Mechanical secondary, of course. Mechanical choke. No bullshit. This is good. Notice how I got the, what do they call this? Anodized or whatever. It's the gold, like zinc chromium look. You have to have that.
Oh yeah. Like a crown sitting atop it.
I've been back out this morning just kind of plugging away and got spark plug wires on. We're wired for sound. The starter should be wired up. I got to figure out where to put a ground cable. Factory Pontiac one goes to a head bolt with a stud, but we don't have that anymore with these ARPs. So I got to find somewhere to put that. That'll be a good ground, but then we'll throw a carburetor on it, hook some fuel up, and see what happens. Well, I found a spot to run the ground cable. Right to the timing cover down there. There's a stud. That worked pretty good. They say no more than 12 inches of rubber fuel line in the whole system. So the back of the car is already wrong. Let's make the front look right. And we'll do that by adding multiple junctions and connections. That way it has way more of a chance to leak, because bureaucratic nonsense rules make, no sense. I'm going to actually run it from the fuel pump over to this side of the engine and up. Just get out of the way of everything over here. And I've got some aluminum tube here, so we'll get her attached to the oil pan down here, and then run straight up. That ought to satisfy them. Have to tie her up down here, but also plus side, it keeps it out of the heat pocket over here. Kind of lets it breathe, so maybe help with some vapor lock issues while we're driving. I think we're ready to go. I put a little bit of gas in it. I had like 2 or 3 gallons here, and then I ran out. And this is all I had left in the can, so hopefully this is enough to prime her up. That's a good start. Well, pump gas up there, that's good. More timing, I guess. Oh, now it's pouring gas out of the carburetor, that's good. Something I've always found strange. Why don't Holly carburetors come with a fuel line? It leaves me to go buy this piece of crap Mr. Gasket one, and then it leaks, because they all do, and I never learned my lesson. The carburetor was like $700. You can't throw in that piece of tube there. Alive! Well, it's alive. Doesn't sound bad. Doesn't sound too bad. I think I might have my valve lash a little bit loose, but we'll see. That's all stuff that's fairly easy to address later. I just wanted to make sure that it runs, and it does. And it sounds pretty good. It didn't smoke or anything. It doesn't have a bunch of blow-by coming out. So I think we're probably okay. Multitude of fuel leaks I have. I mean, they're everywhere. Definitely a little upper end noise. We got good oil pressure though, 40 pounds. Not quite hot for teacher, maybe Panama. I gotta get that timing set right, gotta get the valves lashed. But no cooling system, so I'm gonna shut her down. I feel good enough about that to reassemble though. I didn't hear anything too bad going on there. Definitely got that distributor in about 2 teeth off, but man, it just would not drop in where I wanted it. If we have to, I'll just move the plug wires around on it. Hell, actually, I may just have the plug wires in the wrong spot. I took them right off the old one. Now that I think of it. I suppose next step here is let's dump a radiator in the thing. When Jess and I were coming back from Texas in the Ranchero, we stopped at Summit Racing in Arlington, and I raided their clearance there. They've got a whole store of closeout stuff, and this cold case radiator with fans and shroud was $200. There, new in the box, just a return. I gotta say, it is a damn nice looking radiator, if nothing else. And it's for a 67 GTO. Oh my god, that's not gonna work at all, is it? What? Well, balls. I need to order a radiator. So let me hop on Amazon, buy the cheapest Chinese radiator I can for this. Chinesium radiator ordered, well, that's also Chinesium. I don't know. Less expensive Chinesium radiator ordered from Amazon. It'll be here tomorrow on Prime. Got it. I do bitch about the modern day and age sometimes, but that is one really nice thing. No cooling system. What can we do instead of that? Got some belts on her just so I can feel like I did something.
So, pushed back a day by our radiator, we set off to tackle some of the odds and ends of the car. Like removing the air conditioning box so we could put a valve cover breather in it, windshield wiper motor, headlight switch, bunch of just odds and ends. I realized that I had never actually looked at the wheel bearings on these spindles, which are off of that red 1971 Le Mans. So I decided I ought to pack the bearings, I guess. JD got the HVAC box off the firewall and then proceeded to fit a block-off plate over the hole so we would remain NHRA legal. JD also changed out the windshield wiper motor on the car, which is something he's getting pretty damn good at.
We got wiper blades.
Yeah,
well, we will have wipers. It only has one speed. I think the switch is bad, but that's better than none.
Yeah.
And headlights work, dash lights work, turn signals working, and they don't stay on, so that's a win.
One of you guys had even sent in a complete steering assembly for a 64 to 7A body. However, it turned out to be for a manual steering car, so I couldn't use all of it, but I went ahead and put the new tie rods in the car just for fun. Battery hold down so the NHRA people don't cry.
You fixed the steering wheel was rubbing on the column. Now we got a Pontiac emblem on it. But that collar was rubbing the column, so we fixed that. I guess that's it till the radiator shows up. Then we figure out that we have a blown head gasket and have to pull the motor.
This is beyond foreshadowing. This is a prediction. Spoiler alert.
Yeah, my Chinesium radiator has arrived, leaving very, very little room between the water pump and it. But it should work as long as nothing moves, I guess. They don't list one for this application. Go figure. So I just went off of measurements, and this seemed pretty close, and it don't fit bad at all, really. Alright, well, we got a couple options here. None of them are good. Option 1, get rid of the shroud, put the electric fan straight to the radiator. Option 2, trim this, which probably needs to be done anyway because it's rubbing on the core. This down in here, this lip, which we should probably cut that out anyway, so we'll do that. I had to modify my custom radiator holder thingy that's made out of the lower dash piece of the Le Mans that this engine came out of. And the only natural thing to do is now to self-tapping screw it into place. Put the temp sender in for the electric fan. We're all mounted up on the radiator. Spilled water all over the place when I pulled this plug out because we like to do things in reverse order. We're wiring the fan through a relay, of course, and it'll be switched by this here. So when it gets up to 160 degrees, the fan will just kick on its own. I think it's good. So we'll find out. Well, let's get her fired up, set the timing, listen for upper end chatter. I think it might have been going away. Watch for leaks.
Fire it up. Yep.
Sender works great. Just on all the time.
Yeah, what?
Piece of shit. Not charging. Not nearly enough. I can't turn this anymore. We're gonna have to move the plug wires around. just moved all the plug wires, one back clockwise, and now they actually fit a little better. I think I put them on the cap wrong. That's a lot of time. Yeah, way too much. But running better. I want to let it get hot, burp, and everything. And the vacuum advance fan is hitting the throttle shaft. I can't twist the distributor back the other way. So we'll have to disconnect the throttle to move it past. Thermostat open. I want to change the oil after it's done running like this too. Got the timing set, 14 degrees. Pretty happy there. We're a little bit high on our back fuel bowl. You adjust the rear float. Front float's pretty good. Yeah. We're not charging, I don't think, so I need to fix that. 40 pounds oil pressure is good. Alright, let's let it pressurize. Pack is not even remotely accurate. What the hell? It ain't idling at 1500 RPM, I know that. So it's a 160 thermostat, which as long as it doesn't run above 190, I'm happy. I mean, got a little carb work to do, but it ain't running bad right there. I'm gonna let it run. I want to see if this thing gets hot because of our cooling system. That's not the best of shape, but so far it seems okay. Also want to make sure the head gaskets don't blow. That would be good. Brakes work. What is that? Look at the drive shaft.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, I hear it. I don't know.
Don't see nothing?
I can't feel it. That's weird. Hang on, let me. Yeah. Yeah, it is.
It is?
Yeah.
Alright. We can fix that.
The weights on the wheel?
Oh, that's why it's one okay.
Yeah.
One revolution. Dunk, dunk.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's just the weight rubbing on that job?
Yep.
Alright, that's okay.
I got worried for a second.
Me too. We'll just take the weights off.
Yeah. Grind it off.
Back out today. Oh my god! Back out today at JD's. Yeah, you're right. I think we could probably lose that wheel weight.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, how about the other wheel? The other one doesn't rub for some reason?
Nope, it doesn't.
That doesn't make any sense. I was thinking we just grind the shock a little bit.
Yeah, but it's the, like this right here, this mount.
That's the bolt.
Yeah.
That's why it rubs, is because this one's turned differently.
Yeah.
That's why. Well, at least it witnessed it where I need to grind. JD's going to drop the oil, change it. I want you to smell it.
Smell it.
And also look for metal. Yeah, we want to smell for gas and look for water and metal. It just smells like oil,
Yeah.
not gas.
Yeah, it just smells like oil.
You know, when you throw more compression at a completely worn out engine like this, you run the risk of washing the cylinders with fuel. We would know by now, though. Well, the wheels are on and they clear, theoretically. I didn't actually look, but we'll test it. You're going to change the oil again. Wix filter again, and just going to add some of this just for fun, you know. Little honey. It's just for kicks, though, you know. I'm going to put this Dong Schwa alternator on here. This is a one-wire unit from Amazon. always had really good luck with these things, actually. So, and this is a 100 amp rather than the factory like 55 or 60 amp, so that should help out with the electric fan draw as well. We're going to dump the cooling system one more time just to help flush any of this crap out. It's not going to get it all, but the more we can get out of there, the better off we're going to be. Petcock doesn't work on this radiator, so... Oh, God! Ew! Oopsies. Hey, it's just water, EPA. Our Dong Schwa alternator doesn't quite fit in the same place. It doesn't have a provision for the rear bracket, which is fine. It'll probably be okay without it. We're ready to put it on the ground, then we're going to lash the valves again before we go driving. We're going to relash the valves, and how we're going to do that is I'm going to take it all back off. We're going to back all the valves off again, and then relash all the valves, and I'm going to set them up a little bit tighter this time. We're going to get a different reading because all the lifters are now pumped full of oil. If it still makes noise after this, we're just going to ignore it because it's not that bad. It's just, I don't like it. Let's see what it sounds like now. We're running without the valve covers on it, just to save us some work if it's not right. Sounds okay.
Yeah?
Better.
Yeah. You're still gonna hear it, but it's...
Not a lot of oil up here, is there?
Yeah, no, that's scary.
Well, they are oil restricted push rods. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, there was oil up here, obviously.
Not good.
I called Kevin over at Junkyard Digs, and he said his was the same way because of those oil-restricted push rods. So, and then I revved it up, and it did start to spray some oil out, so I guess that's just the way it is. I'm just used to junk, I guess. Hell, I don't know. I'm going to set the floats on this, since it's all nice and pumped up for us. Let some air out of those shocks. Jeez.
Yeah, very bouncy.
Shit. Not bad. I can't get on it too hard. We got to break this rear end in. Got a little vibration to it. It might be that wheel that we that got ground down.
Probably.
This tack is worthless. What? I mean, it runs good. Oh. God, it's noisy. That is so noisy. I think we got to get longer push rods.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's get even notice when that fan was running, did you?
No, I don't think I did. I don't know if it was running or not. We got good oil pressure.
Yeah. Charging.
Yeah. We got some things to work out.
Coal's good.
Tack is super accurate.
Speedometer, very accurate.
Speedometer, yeah.
It's hot. Really hot.
Yeah.
Oh, well, we never burped it, did we?
No, we burped it.
It might be an air bubble. I hope it's an air bubble.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully, it's an air bubble.
Or a blue head gasket. Yeah, that's hot. Let's see if it's puking. It's hot. Look how swollen that hose is.
Oh, wow. It's not puking.
No, it's not. Makes you wonder about that cap. It did puke.
Yeah. Maybe when you shut it off or something, just right when. It could be that cap.
Yeah.
How come it was fine last night when we were running it?
Yeah, I know. That didn't make any sense. Except for I got on it, built some cylinder pressure, and if it had a blown head gasket, it would blow it. I just realized that is a 19-pound radiator cap. Put this off of that cold case on there, which I'm pretty sure is a 16, although it doesn't say. It's still full. They didn't eat any, that's for sure. We got today to figure this out. It's definitely flowing. Looks like shit. But it's staying around 180 now. See if it does it again.
Yeah, no. It's like 200 now. It's better.
Yeah, that's like 210. I haven't got on it though.
220 now.
Yeah. Shit. I'm going real easy on it, right? It's cooling off. It's only with pressure that it's getting hot. I really think it's a head gasket. That's my gut telling me that. If it was water pump or anything like that, I would think it would just be hot all the time,
Yeah.
you know.
I took it back home to investigate, and
It's on the lens.
Yeah. That adds to it.
Oh. So this literally sat here for almost half of an hour, and it still had that much pressure on it. Sorry to tell you folks, that's a head gasket. So, on that absolute gut-wrenching defeat, we'll see you next time on Pole Barn Garage. I hate to leave you with a cliffhanger, but I've got to knock this video out, and then we've got to put another motor in this. What motor will we choose? The Rusty GTO 400? The Burn GTO 400? Cody's Grand Prix? That 455? What will we choose? Well, you'll just have to wait and find out, won't you? Oh no. I'm going to go have an anxiety attack now. Goodbye. Oh, one last thing. This is not the parts' fault, okay? This is not Butler Performance's fault or anything. Their parts are great. The thing is, you take a gamble when you put new heads on an engine that is in pretty bad shape like this one. The deck of that block gets out of whack over the years, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. This time it didn't, but I just wanted to be absolutely clear that this is not Butler's, this is not their fault. I'm not saying that because I owe them anything. I paid for this shit. This is 100% my fault for just bolting the stuff onto a really, really, really bad condition 350 Pontiac. I would assume that that would be clear and obvious, but the comments have always told me otherwise. So we will see you guys next time on Pole Barn Garage. Please go to polebarnmerch.com. Get you a pocket t-shirt. And also, you know, what other YouTuber has their own lighters? Nobody. So get you some of that. I would say to recover the costs of the build, but frankly, I can use all this stuff somewhere else, so it's not a big deal. You will be happy to know that the budget has returned to the Sky Goat, though, because we will be putting some turd motor in it now, instead of this polished turd. This should be a little bit nicer to work in, at least.
Yeah.
We get to look forward to that, at least. Yay. Aren't you so excited for every single day after school to be out here pulling an engine?
Yeah. So excited.
But you don't have to go to school next week.
Oh yeah.
So, you know.
I just have to do it even harder and work in a car.
Yeah. Way better.
Yeah.